All right. So this is our Your Way workshop for September. Can't believe it's already September. Tonight we're going to be talking about choosing format. So I've just been welcoming all of our participants tonight. Everyone is struggling in some way. It seems we've got fires and of course hurricane, and then all the after effects of the hurricane as that storm continues to move through. I wish everyone well, and then all this on top of the ongoing pandemic. So yay, the fact that this many of us can come together to celebrate our scrapbooking tonight and find some camaraderie together means that our hobby means a lot for sure. If this is your first time coming tonight, these are small group breakout conversations, and I'm going to share our agenda here in a second inside the chat room. I'm recording this little intro part here, and then we'll record our conversation, our wrap-up conversation at the end, but all your small group conversations won't be recorded. So you can feel comfortable sharing openly with your group, just, telling your stories and tackling some of these issues together. And then think about, okay, what are some of those takeaway messages? What did I learn? What idea did I hear that I'd never heard before? And that's what you want to bring back to the conversation at the end. So you can kind of filter all of the chit chat into your takeaway messages. And that's what we'll share for the recording so that others can experience this as well. And we can, of course, learn from each other. Before we do that at the end, after we conclude our 3 rounds of conversation, I will share a little bit about what's going on at Simple Scrapper during this creative journey. September marks the start of a brand new 2-month period, and we're focusing on projects, which is why we're talking about choosing formats tonight. There's so many different formats today. We've got the whole spheres of digital and paper, and then of course, all the breakdowns of each of those. So many different ways that you can be a scrapbooker. And so tonight I really want to focus on how do we take kind of our desire and figure out, okay, what's the best format to make that project fun and finishable, have the creative experience that I want, and then actually have it be finishable as well. And so how do we bring all those different factors together to make really smart decisions? And of course, over time, we keep making better decisions, and that's why we're having these discussions. So let me grab the link here. Here's the link to our agenda tonight. We've got 3 questions we're tackling. And of course, align with what I just said. What factors do you consider when deciding on the format or size you will use for a new project? Sometimes those factors are kind of decisions you've already made, that I do things in a certain one way or a certain number of ways, and you want to fit it into that structure. And sometimes there's other factors. There's, just creative interest and curiosity. Something's fun, shiny, and new. That could play into it as well. But I think when we think about what is that universe of things that we need to consider, we can make smarter decisions. Number 2, is there a scrapbooking format that you don't think you'll ever use again, and why? So that's perhaps maybe a letting go, a thought process for ourselves. But as we share that with others, we can articulate maybe why that doesn't work for us and help others think more critically about maybe some of the things that they've tried that maybe they want to let go of as well. And then what formats are you interested in trying? Of course, we had we're still in a memory planning phase and a traveler's notebook phase, and the Citrus Twist album, smaller albums. And now we've got this whole 10x8 December daily landscape, which, there's only been a few albums in the past that were that landscape format. So many different things that people are curious about. So that's what we're going to be talking about next. And then with that, are there questions that you have about getting started in that format? So really, what are the additional factors that you would need to consider if you're going to do something new? I know that when we were working on Before Your Story back in June, one of the big conversation points was about, if I choose this particular album, it has this hole configuration, and I may have page protectors that have different holes. And so do I want to punch new holes? Do I want to washi tape it up and MacGyver it in place? Or do I want to make sure that those holes line up? And that can really impact your decision, because different albums have different hole configurations these days. So sometimes it's as logistical as that, and even beyond kind of the creative and storytelling aspects. All right. Chris says, I would do well to stay off Instagram. Obviously, social media influence is a big factor in our conversation as well. All right, with that, does anybody have any questions? You can either unmute yourself and shout it out, or you can post it in the chat box. And I'll just pause for that while I get the breakout room set up. Let's see. Looks like we'll need 8 rooms here. And if this is your first time, just know this is an opportunity to really share generously and know that you'll be received with that same level of generosity in terms of we're open to new ideas, new perspectives. We know that we've got a broad range of types and experience levels of scrapbookers here. And we know that everyone has something to contribute no matter what they do and how they approach this hobby. All right, let's jump into the room. So you're going to be automatically sent off, and then I will collect you back in, let's make sure not 99 minutes, let's put that back to 9 minutes here. And yeah, we will see you back here in 10 minutes, and then we'll reshuffle the groups and do it all again. Hopefully you had some good conversations. Welcome back. For those watching the recording, all of these friendly faces just went through 3 rounds of small group conversations, and now we are back in the full group session. I was actually just chatting with Chris, who's one of our newer members, and she was saying that, you know, she's not sure how to get around yet. And so I'm going to give a little tour of one part of the website here in a second, but we also do have community orientation sessions that I host on the last Tuesday of every month, where we spend an hour together poking under every single hood, touching every button, and showing you what it's like inside the community. And those are, you can find those inside the membership. But those have been something we added this year, and they've been very well received and really helpful for not only understanding kind of where to go to find things, but some of our intention behind why we put those things there and how we want you to experience our community. All right, I see a good question here. I will tackle this first. Jennifer, what size are the gray taupe items on the shelf behind you? Okay, so top shelf behind me, next to the yellow album here. These are 8x8 albums, and this one is actually a 5.5 by 8.5 album, which I don't know if you can get anymore. So it's like a half letter size album, and that was my daughter's. It was my pregnancy album and my daughter's birth. And then the 8x8 ones, I believe you can still get, and those have all my digital layouts from 2008 through 2011. Basically, I transitioned from digital to paper after my daughter was born. Literally, that baby book, the yellow one, the pregnancy pages are digital, and then the birth pages are paper. So it's like a very hard demarcation between one format and another. All right, so let's do a screen share here real quick. I wanted to show you our current creative journey. All right. You guys seeing the bright orange bar here at the top? Yes, okay, good. It's not like outlining it like it normally does. So these creative journeys are these 2-month explorations of a theme, and we're really seeing them as this kind of a container, a backdrop for your exploration. At Simple Scrapper, we really want you to focus on your own projects, and we're here to nudge you forward on the things that you want to do, but we also recognize that you want to learn and develop and do all these things that support your hobby. So our last one was photos. We talked a lot about both like photography and photo management, and now we're transitioning into projects, or we're kind of starting to think about next year, looking back on the projects that we have been working on, what's working well and what can make us have a better experience with finishing, whether it's a small album or a larger album. And so these journeys have been a really fun exploration this year. We're planning on continuing them next year. And so it's just this 2-month opportunity to walk through some of our member materials together, because members had said, I love everything you have, but I don't necessarily have time to explore it all. So we're giving you kind of little tastes and recommendations from which you get to choose. So at the top here, we have your journey journal, and actually I'll press the start button here. So if you are a member and if you haven't pressed the start button, that allows you to dive into everything. And you won't see the start button once you do it. And so we'll dive into projects here. This just gives a little introduction to the journey and some of the expectations. And then we have our packing list. Everything is travel themed throughout our journeys. And then the journey journal is an opportunity for you to stay accountable to yourself by creating a new post in the community where you can answer some questions and keep it up to date over the 2-month period as a way of kind of checking in. And then we can comment on each other's journey journals and celebrate our progress along the way. So that has been a fun addition as well. Spark Magazine, I'm actually waiting on my proofreader to finish up some edits so I can get that out to everyone tonight. But we are on issue 89 of our member magazine. It still blows my mind that we have done that many. They're now double issues, so they're more than 100 pages. And you can download a PDF, read it online, or even order a print copy. And that will be out later tonight, if not tomorrow morning. We usually release these around the 5th or 6th of the month. It just happened that the first Wednesday of the month happened to be the first. So we're a little tight on deadlines tonight. We have a creative challenge. I'm not going to open that one because I don't want to give it all away. But members have 3 different opportunities to dive in, and each win, 3 members will win a $25 gift certificate if you submit up to 3 layouts for the challenge. And then we have some tools for ongoing accountability, and then an overview of all of our creative libraries and classrooms. So one of the things that's really fun that I like about our journeys is that there's not a ton of like new original content inside of it. The only thing that's new really is our refresh retreat, which I'll talk about next. But the rest of it is just referencing other things in the community. So you're never behind. You're just kind of following along, picking and choosing, seeing what you might need right now and letting go of the rest. Because we know none of us have as much time as we would like to have just to spend on our hobby. And we want to focus most of that on advancing our projects. And so the journey just gives you those little breadcrumbs along the way to see if you want to fill your bucket in some ways and then maybe skip some of the other things. But refresh is our big kickoff. And I'm so excited about this one because our members specifically asked for a reset. And so we've themed everything for this retreat around this feeling of a fresh start. You know, September is the new January. We're kind of treating this as a new year, a new beginning. And with that in mind, let's figure out where we are and what we want to get done towards the end of the year. So our retreats are 4-day periods. And because this is a holiday weekend here in the US, it's almost a 5-day retreat this time. And so we've got a suite of activities from which you get to choose. There's a brand new fun little printable worksheet, which I can't wait to share with everyone tomorrow. You can do it digitally or print it out. And it's everything on one page so that you can just sit down, take stock, and then figure out, okay, which of these activities do I need to feel the most refreshed after a 4-day weekend? So all online, all from the comfort of your PJs. We do have an amazing keynote presentation scheduled for tomorrow night with Helen, one of our creative team members. She's going to be talking about travel projects. And then we have open crop time throughout the weekend and another official session on Saturday morning, where I'll be leading kind of a planning activity to really think through further what you want to get done before the end of the year. So super excited about Refresh. We do this as a kind of a kickoff to every single journey. And then, of course, we have our optional excursions like the one you're here at tonight, the Choosing Formats workshop. And we also have so much else coming up. I don't want to overwhelm you with all of it, but we'll be kind of really hitting hard on this idea of finishing projects and what does it take to be a finisher when it comes to our scrapbooking. And so that will take us all the way through October of this year. So I just wanted to share that little sneak peek of our journey classroom because we are on September 1st, and it's so hard to believe there's only 4 months left in the year, but we are going to finish in style and with so much energy and so much personal nourishment. It's that kind of combination of I need to fuel myself so that I can have stuff to give to my family, my workplace, my friends, and the rest of my life, and then also continue to make progress on the projects that we said we were going to do at the beginning of the year. All right, a little tour for you there. I know many of you are already members, but thank you so much for indulging me. Yes, any of the sessions that I host are recorded. We do have open crop time almost every single day of the week. Like today, there were 3 of them. Those are not recorded just because they are hosted by our members who are volunteers. But any of the sessions that I host, such as the keynote tomorrow night and the Saturday morning crop, those will be recorded and posted in the community. All righty. So takeaways. I'm sure we had some interesting conversations about projects tonight. What are some of those considerations? What are you going to let go of? And what do you want to try for the first time? Tell me all the things.
Jennifer, I heard more and more about 6x8, and I am very intrigued moving from I start with a 12x12, but I mostly print 10x10s.
Okay.
But I use a lot of white space. That's what I've come to believe. So it'd be interesting to see what I can do with 6x8. So people had some interesting ideas that basically like think of it as a 2-page spread for 6x8. So I'm thinking about putting that on my 2022 to try it with just individual photos of my kids from the last 15 years, so I'll just pick and choose what strikes me. So I'm intrigued with that idea. So it would still be digital with my plan, but I think I should try it and see what happens.
I think it'd be fun to do it as kind of you've been describing as a specific project, to dabble in it with an end goal in mind, and then evaluate and see, do I want to do more in this size, or I'm good with that project and that was enough.
Yeah, I feel like if I'm just doing it with photos I come across in Google or in my house of my kids that are mostly 4x6 type things. If I do a few and I don't like it, well, maybe I frame them. And if I still like it, I can keep going as I find things and feel like it and just keep adding. I'll just print them individually and add them to a album. Since that's popular, I'm sure I can find an album with page protectors to slide it in.
Oh, for sure. Well, no, you can even print 6x8 photo books too.
I could, but that would make me have an end point. And I was thinking this is something I could just go along as I find something and say, you know what, I think I'll try this, as opposed to thinking, oh, I got to have a project I have to finish. As someone who just received her 2019 volume 2, which I started finishing last fall, I'm excited that that's done, but I'm careful on what I set up as being a finished project.
Well, and that's smart. And I can also see that because you say you do like a lot of white space, you can experiment both with, okay, what does it feel like to fill this canvas, either a 12x8 double page or a 6x8, or how does it feel to maybe shrink things down a little bit more and be like a little more minimal in it, if that appeals to you.
Yeah,
so
I'm intrigued, and it would be not square. I'm intrigued. I think I should try this. So, but none of my 2022 plans. We'll see what happens in the planning journey.
All right. What else?
Well, I learned all about December daily. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead.
So I learned about what that is because I had heard the word, but I never knew what it was. So someone explained, I think Kate explained what it was. And then I think Honore talked about Journal Your Christmas. There's another woman who has a Journal Your Christmas site. And so I'm looking at both of those. So I'm thinking about getting in one and trying it this year. So
watch out. It's a whole thing, and it's super fun.
I know.
Yeah. Think about what's I will tell you to think about what really is exciting you right now and go along those lines. If it's storytelling, like definitely I think Journal Your Christmas. And if it's all about the shiny blingy products, buying some December daily products. And then if you really want a combination, you can put both of those together. Many people have done that. So
I've never done a Christmas book or a Christmas themed or holiday themed book. So I think that'll be a challenge for me to do it. So
yeah, or even think about what maybe kind of simpler formats. There's lots of people out there that have done traveler's notebooks and journals.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Well, I do the memory keeping right now, so I could easily blend it into my current memory keeping book. So we'll see.
Are you using like a memory planner format that has dates? and
Yeah,
stuff?
a happy planner. So that
fun.
style. So yeah, it's easy. That's much easier for me. So
Very cool. I know that, so Allie Edwards is the creator of December Daily, and she has a number of planners on her
Right.
December Daily creative team this year. And so I think we'll be seeing more examples of that type of format
okay.
this year as the months come up.
Yeah, I look forward to it. So
Yay, I'm excited for you.
thanks, Kate.
Right. Others. What do we know we want to let go of?
Less 12 by 12.
Less
Ooh.
12 by 12.
Just less. Doesn't mean never, just means less. Just
And
to
what
try
are some of the
something.
reasons?
It's just too big. It's just too big. That and I just want to change. So my goal 2021 was to use the Citrus Twist albums.
Mhm.
And I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the size, so much easier to get things done. And
Yeah, I was looking at your Instagram earlier actually, and I noticed that you were working in that size. So
yeah, I really do like it. So, but
fun.
I've got some storyline chapters to try. So that's
Ooh.
my intriguing, want to learn more and want to try it.
I forgot I have those too. On my list of things to try.
The Citrus Twist ones are basically 4 4.25 by 8,
Mhm.
and they're in pocket pages. So multiple pockets. So they have a whole bunch of different page protectors, kind of like traveler's notebook size. So yeah.
Yeah, and then the storyline chapters are more like almost like a composition book style. And what really helped me on those is the tip to use matte label paper to print journaling, and then cut it out and slap it in the book. Because I get intimidated about writing in a book and like, what if I mess up and it's in the book? Like on a layout, I can fix that. But if it's in the book, it's in the book if I mess up. And so printing out my journaling on little stickers that are clear and then putting them on the page has eased all of my anxiety about that. So I've been working in one of those storyline chapter books myself. And so those are from Heidi Swap.
Okay, cool.
So I changed to the storyline chapter planner style to try doing daily sort of journaling and keep a track, because nothing much seems to be happening. So instead of doing Project Life, I was telling everyone I do Project Life, a double spread per month. I've gone down to doing the storyline chapters planner style for the daily or weekly sort of things, just to try and remember those little things that you forget. And I've really enjoyed it. And one of my things as well is I don't mind the writing, but it's nice sometimes if you've got a longer story to stick it in there and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's good.
I'm loving hearing how folks are trying new things and identifying maybe like what's a frustration. Like I know that I don't mind sitting down and making a 12 by 12 page. It's when I get out that giant album that's like 15 by 15 and there's no room for it on my desk. That's when I get frustrated with 12 by 12 myself. Because nobody wants to hold the album, and then it gets full and it's heavy and nobody ever looks at it because it's so heavy. So I hear you on that, but I do love creating in that size. It's a conflict. Other things that you want to, go ahead. Go.
Oh, yeah, I have a question for everyone, I think. So when you decide you want to try a new format, like I know like intellectually that it's okay to just stop what I'm doing and have my 12 by 12 albums partially done for a year or whatever. But the completionist in me struggles. So does anyone have any tips?
Let it go.
Talk me up. Just talk me up.
Let it go.
I think
They'll be
like
there. They're not
Jennifer
going
said,
anywhere.
I think like Jennifer said about the December album, the idea of like, if you want to try a new format or a new size or something along those lines, maybe pick a very finite, specific project to do that with. right? So you're not like completely switching over all of your ongoing memory keeping. It's this little like side project. So like for me, it would be like a travel album or a December album or something along those lines. Because then it's like a little one-off. You can experiment with it. If you like it, then yeah, maybe you transition other things. Otherwise, you can just, go back to what was working before.
I can say that I've had a lot of like false starts with various sizes. Like the year I tried to do 8.5 by 11 pockets because We Are Memory Keepers had a weird configuration one year that included 3x4 cards and then a bunch of weird sizes that weren't 3x4. And that did not work for me because I didn't want to be fussy about it. And the thing is though, is 8.5 by 11 pages fit in 12 by 12 albums. So I was able to take everything I did and put it in a 12 by 12 album. So in many cases, there's always a way to like take what you've done and either put those page protectors in a different album or even like remat them on a different size. Like there's usually always a way to, if you get like in a few weeks, a few months, and you're like, not for me, you can course correct and find a way to make it work.
Okay. Well,
Do others have
I'll be thinking
other
on this.
things? No, I mean, I get it.
doesn't.
It's a challenge.
She doesn't sound convinced.
Well, it's not that I'm not convinced. Like, I know I could do that. Like, that's not the problem. It's the actual doing it, because I've been a traditional 12 by 12 scrapbooker. And while I scrap out of order, I've always filed my layouts chronologically. But I want to try like 6 by 8 and pocket pages. And so like I've done them in the past for projects, but for like just my ongoing memory keeping. So I want to do that. My brain needs a plan for it, which is always my stumbling block. I plan myself to death.
Do you want to put those in your ongoing albums, but they're going to fit in like with the chronological sequence? Is that what I'm hearing?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
I'm looking to like try to break away from that, but I'm not done with the chronological albums.
So, okay, there's two other like ways to then think about it. So if we think of like, okay, whether you're scrapbooking in order or not, if you're filing chronologically, that's one way you can store your layouts. You could also take all the layouts you've done and use Stacy Julian's Library of Memory system, which is categories. And some people's brains really resonate with that and others don't. It's another option out there. What I feel like I'm transitioning towards myself is a series of albums that have layouts. So there's like 12 by 12 stories, volume 1, 12 by 12 stories, volume 2. And then I have 8.5 by 11 stories, volume 1, volume 2. And then I have 6 by 8 stories, volume 1, volume 2. Because so many of my pages are bringing stories together that cross time. I'm telling a lot of these bucket list stories that feel deeper and more meaningful. So like they're big. They don't really fit in any one year. They're not about this year. And so the more that my scrapbooking goes that direction, the less it felt necessary to have annual albums. So, and that's not going to fit for everyone either, but it's something to think about to have a home and a plan, but it's the least structure of all the options.
Yep. I'm thinking. Thank you.
Did I get you? I mean, I've struggled with the same thing.
I got options.
Many others have here too. So.
Lots of ways to do it. I just have to decide on one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And you could always move them all later too. People have done that.
Jennifer, I started doing that as well. I was always chronological, and I was real, I guess anal about it. And the older I've gotten and the less I scrapbook my children, then I just do like what you're doing is doing more stories, important stories. And I just put them in, I just put them with the next page, and it doesn't really matter what size it is or what the story is or what the date was. I just put it all together now. And I just don't worry about, trying to get all the photo albums, all finished and in chronological order anymore.
Yeah, I just started to feel like I was amassing more and more unfinished things. And I didn't like that feeling because I wasn't feeling the desire to go back and like, let's spend time in 2014. Like, I don't remember 2014. Like, it's really hard to re-immerse yourself in a particular year. But I can connect with, okay, let's just say we went to Michigan this year. We didn't, and then we went in 2014. So let's tell the story of how much we like going to Michigan and some of the fun things that we've done. I'd want to put that in my current album because it's a nice, cool layout that I just made.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I started doing too, because I have over 50 albums and most of them are not finished. So I was for a long time thought, well, I have to go back and finish them. But then, like you said, I just decided instead of worrying about finishing those albums, leave them like that and then tell the stories that come up and just put them in this, what I'm doing right now, and not worry about going back to it.
Yeah.
My philosophy is this is a hobby, not a job. So there's no rules. Yeah. Chronological, you kind of get trapped in rules.
Well, and yeah, Kieran was there on a call we had, was that 2 weeks ago now, where they coached me on some of my December daily challenges that I had 1 year where I did 3 pages. Okay, am I really going to go back and finish the rest of that album, make 22 more pages, or can I put those 3 pages in the album that I already have for that year, or just in an album and say, here's some Christmas stories I told. Not everything has to be a project, and you can kind of reimagine the boundaries of the project as you go along so that you can feel like, okay, we're moving forward rather than constantly feeling stuck in the past.
That's right. And with the December daily, I always did my December daily in 12 by 12 because I preferred 12 by 12. And I just put them at the end of the years that I was doing. And then any that I've done where I haven't completed every year, I either stick it in there or have a Christmas sort of stories, because I do the Tell the Story Christmas with Shamel. I like her,
your Christmas,
her way of thinking, as well as doing kind of an abridged version of what Ali Edwards does, so daily stories. So I kind of mix the two together. So I can either put them in a separate one, or if I've only done like you, Jennifer, where I've only done a page or two and that's as far as I got 1 year, I just shove it in that year's album and call it good.
You could also make a quick layout at the end of, like if you're sticking in 12 by 12 through the end of 2021, maybe at the end of your 2021 book, you say like, for 2022, I'm going to be working in like this size album or something, just sort of like a transition kind of.
I like that. That's a great idea, Melissa.
I think Stacey Julian talked about doing something like that, like when she was transitioning to Library of Memories, and she basically just
remember that too, Kim.
Yeah, she's like, Mom changed her mind.
That's where I got the idea.
Yeah, she was like, enjoy, in like total Stacey fashion, right? Like,
yeah, genius. Just say I'm changing.
Yeah,
well, I think Shamel has done that too in terms of like pointer, like specifically calling out what goes next. Like, go see this thing for more on this.
So I've done that in my year in review layouts, because I would have stories that would be in different albums, and I would say like, best trip of the year, see such and such album. Like funniest story of the year, see December whatever 2018 album. So I reference them in that aspect. And I think I got that from Shamel. Because it's like, I don't need to retell all these stories. It's like a summary compilation thing, but I can tell you where to go find those stories.
Yeah, because you might only want to put 1 or 2 photos from your holiday in there and then point to your holiday album that has full story. So that's exactly, I do that as well. And I got that from Shamel as well, because you get confused when you're doing, the 12 by 12 project lifestyle or whatever. Do I put the story here or do I put it elsewhere? So you put 1 or 2 pictures and then point yourself there, which I really like doing that. Some people like to put the whole story in there.
We've had some awesome suggestions here tonight. Other takeaways from your conversations about maybe some like interesting considerations that a perspective or an approach that someone takes and trying to figure out what format they're going to use. And maybe you don't normally think about that.
I think I've talked about this before, but we talked about it again tonight, is the idea of kind of like what your bigger reason why is for that particular project. So I think I did a traveler's notebook for a vacation. And then I later realized that for me, a lot of my like travel vacation photo, it's because I like the photos, right? I want like big photos and I like to play with that. And so like doing that in a traveler's notebook was not as satisfying for me because I couldn't really like, I guess, highlight those as well as I wanted. But then at the same time, if I wanted to do something that was very like journal heavy, you know, my default would be like 8.5 by 11, especially like when I was doing more paper hybrid, because I could just like type it up and print it as opposed to like writing up like a million little journal cards. So I think my format choices very much come from like what I want out of it at the end, kind of what I'm focusing on. Is it products? Then maybe that's pocket pages because I have this really cool kit, or maybe it's photos, so I want a bigger size. Or so I think that's how I determine my formats. And I think I heard that from the people in my group as well, as kind of that would, whatever they were working on is very dependent in what format or sizes they chose.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking about, that if I'm like doing outdoor stuff and I have like great photos of like skies and landscapes, I'm going to want to make those bigger. I'm going to want to put journaling on top of them maybe, or embellishments on top of them. And it's more likely I want to make the photos the star. Whereas in contrast, like December daily, and I think this might be a mismatch for some people, my worst photos are in December because there's no lights. You're taking indoor photos, like once in a while you can get like a really nice fun shot, but really my worst photos are during the Christmas season. And so are those deserving of the same type of celebration as say like the photos you take in May when you're at the park and things are all like beautiful and pretty. So it's a question in terms of what you value and what's important to you in your project.
So Jennifer, that just means you need to move to Australia to have summer,
yes,
summer Christmas photos. But then all the scrapbooking items all have winter themes. Nothing has a summer theme. So
that does sound like a plan though. Or I was thinking of actually doing like a May every day, because I probably take the most photos of the year in May. Because I'm, you know, we're thinking about summer and, you know, winding up the school year and there's sports and outdoorsy things. So. All right, other thoughts? We are past time. I want to thank you all for spending time with me tonight. This has been a delightful conversation, but if there are any other thoughts that you guys want to share. Sue says she did a May every day last year with Stacy Julian. And Katie says that's why a week in the life might be in May, probably, because it's always a good time. So after a week, I'm usually tired, so I don't know if I could do every day. So we'll see.
I thought about doing an October daily because I love Halloween, but I haven't. I started one, but I didn't finish it.
Yeah, I just noticed that Heidi Swap released a bunch of Halloween products, and I'm
like,
my
gosh, she's killing me. Killing me. I had to talk myself out of it about 4 times today. And then her wood art too. Have you seen her wood art? The stuff for the mantle and everything, the DIY. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So between her and Tim Holtz, we're all going to go broke with Halloween stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everyone for being here, and especially those of you who are maybe newer in scrapbooking and are learning about some of these people and communities and projects for the first time. I really appreciate it. And please don't hesitate to like follow up and ask questions. We're here to help you figure out what is, as we say in the podcast, what is your way in this hobby. And this concept of talking about formats when it comes to projects is a really big part of that, because there are so many options. It can be tempting to try to do it all, but you got to figure out maybe which is the one that's going to work best for you so that you can finish your projects. I hope you guys have a really great rest of your month, and I will see you all again very, very soon. We'll be back here next month for another fun conversation.